Hey everyone, welcome back to Land Investing Online. Come unlock your potential freedom through land investing. Here at Land Investing Online, we teach students how to profitably buy and sell vacant land. This is the simplest, least competitive, and most profitable sector of real estate. To learn more, visit landinvestingonline.com. We even have a free Discord with tons of successful investors, including Ron and myself. Come learn from the best. Please subscribe and like this Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, whatever you guys are listening on. It really drives this business forward. It means a lot to Ron and I. As always, I'm Daniel Apke, joined again by my brother and business partner, Ron Apke. Welcome back, Ron.
Hey, Dan, good to be here.
Before we get into today's topic,
it took us about 10 tries to get this one started. We literally just started, and then that's why I looked like if I was crying or something. If you guys were watching on YouTube, we just couldn't stop laughing when we kept starting this. But hopefully we can get through this attempt, Dan.
Yeah, I think we got this one. We got all the laughs and giggles out. Today's topic, we're building a winning culture. So before we get into that, let's go over a question from today's featured member. The question is, how long does it take to complete the course? Are the modules uploaded online, and can I watch at my own speed? Really good question. And we don't address this enough, I don't think. Ron, you can answer that one.
Yeah, I don't think so, because I get messages, Dan, that are asking if it's live, like how long does the class take? A lot of people will say, but 100% online, guys. We have our weekly webinars at 6 p.m. on Wednesdays, which I advise everyone. This is for members and non-members. So that's a great place that is live where you can ask questions. But the modules itself, it's about 15 to 20 hours of recorded modules. And some people do it in a weekend even. Some people take a month to do the course. It's not really a commitment level. It's just how fast you want to do it. It's your personality, really. How some people are a lot more analytical and take more time, which is completely good. And a lot of those people are extremely successful. Some people are like, I just want to get my first mailer out and then learn from my mistakes, essentially. But you can do it in as little as a weekend or a week, and you can take as long as you want, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Like this, it's at your own pace, guys, and that's really all that you need to know about it. You can, at the end of each module, there's action steps, so it actually tell you what you need to accomplish before moving on. If you want to do it that way, some people go through it all and go back and just do it. Some people really like the action steps. I did the action steps because it's what I want to see from courses to give me more direction. But let's get into the show. Today's topic: building a winning culture. So we're going to talk about building a company and culture and, really sustainable business. And that's what we're all about. Systems, processes, and sustainability is what we talk about and we preach constantly. So why is building a culture so important? And I think it's easy to overlook, Ron, because it doesn't give you immediate ROI and it's hard to measure the ROI, And I think that's why it's so overlooked. But I always talk about the mastermind or mentor and coaches I have, and they are all really, really into culture and just building a business, core values and mission, and everything kind of revolves around that. And he brings in a lot of different guests as well, and they all say the same thing. So it's like, and they're very, very, very successful people as well. So you hear from that level of people, and Steve Jobs of the world and Elon Musk and what they do with their culture and core values and what they believe in, and everything else revolves kind of around that, Ron.
Yeah, and to keep you guys, I think this episode, Dan, is gonna can't help thousands of business owners. Honestly, we're not gonna make this land focus really in any way, but the way I view it, like culture is what's gonna sustain your business through tough times. We're in a recession right now, through tough times in the market, whatever it is, a culture, having the people around you that believe in what you're doing. I think it's the backbone of your business. Without a purpose, without the culture aspect, I don't think there's much identity to your business. I know you have a lot to say about this. Dan, one thing I do want to get to, it doesn't have to be right now, Dan, just remind us later, is the difficulties doing this on a remote level, because I think that's a challenge that I want to make sure we talk about in the as we go on with this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Ron's saying, it just comes down to this. This is a sustainability thing. It drives the company. It really helps you. At the end of the day, the better. And actually, I want to start with this. Whether you know it or not, you have a culture right now. Whether it's you and one other person or just you and your partner or you by yourself, culture is nothing that you can't say I don't want a culture. That's not a thing. That's not you have a culture no matter what. It can be a good culture, it can be a bad culture, it can be, maybe there's no such thing as good or bad culture, excuse me. But you have a culture no matter what. So do want to start with that. And like Ron said, it's creates happier, healthier employees, happier, healthier business, happier cash flow, happier everything reflects down on the culture that you build. Easier to work in a culture you believe in, which directly relates to better sales profits, better collaboration, and all that good stuff. So, like I said, you already have a culture. So, how do you start building one? You might be asking. You already have one. So, it's about first looking at what kind of culture you have. Even if you don't have core values built out and the mission built out, you have a culture, and I'll look and see kind of what you want to see from your team and what you want to surround yourself with. So just ask who do you want to surround yourself with on your team, and what kind of people do you want? I would kind of start there, and then the two questions that kind of go around. We've talked about this several times. What drives the economics of your business? So maybe it's honesty with the sellers, or speed, or trying to think of some other core values, Ron, that we had on our first roam. What are some other core values that we have, just for examples, Ron?
Being action oriented, like not procrastinating. That wasn't exactly on there, but I think that goes kind of hand in hand. But it's like you said, if it's a land business or a whatever, some service business, some local service business, like you need to have those what you believe in, what drives your economics, and it can be a wide variety of things. You don't want to over dilute it. That's one thing we had problems with when we first started, was we over diluted and kind of fluffed up, I like to say, our core values. Now we have two core values with a couple bullet points under each one that we feel so strongly about. We'll fire someone in an instant if we don't believe they're living by the core values. But go on, Dan. I know you were
Yeah,
going.
and I'm not going to tell you guys our core values just because I want you to be unique with yours. Like Ron said, this is for anyone not even not real estate. So say you're a carpet cleaning business. Maybe one of your core values is, customer service, excellence or something, or, something about excellence. It can really be anything. And you got to realize, like, what drives your economics. Are you about getting there, getting the job done, and getting out, speed, or are you about getting there, taking care of the customer, fulfilling all their needs, spending extra time with them, probably a higher price carpet cleaner, things like that. And that's what you're known for. That's your culture. You might not know it. You might have the best Italian food in the city, but your prices are a lot higher. So you got to really what drives your economics? Is it quality? And you have to see that, break your business down. What drives your economics in your business, and what pisses you off? So like, actually, you explained that one, Ron. How would you word like what pisses you off? I know we looked at what pisses us off in our business, and kind of made some decisions based off of that.
Yeah, and like Daniel said, we're really trying not to tell you guys what our core values are, because I don't want to be like they're doing well. Like this should be my core values too. But if you've had an employee, maybe you haven't had an employee. It's just your personal life. Maybe it annoys you when someone is late. That's probably something you pretty strongly believe in, whether it's even like going out to dinner, being someone's late for dinner, and that's something that annoys you. That might be a core value in your business, like being timely, something like that. So that's how we built our core values, and that has it did result in the termination of an employment because of it, because it wasn't something that we believed they were living by. But that's really how when I thought about it, it was something that resonated when I was listening to one of Daniel's mentors, and that's what he said, like create your core values around things that piss you off. So, and basically make them the opposite. So if it's someone being late pisses you off, like timeliness, being extremely timely, being early to everything, being fast with whatever. So that's how we did it, or that's how I did it when Daniel and I were talking about this. We kind of did it separately, then came together and came up with our two core values. And timeliness is not one of ours, just so you guys know. But go on, Dan.
Yeah, and if it is timeliness like that, and you don't care if someone like that's why we say look at what pisses you off and what drives your economics, and see how those overlap, because you got to make sure they align with you, the founder, the CEO, whatever you call yourself. You got to make sure it aligns with you personally, or else it's not sustainable. So hopefully it aligns with you personally and it drives your economics. And that's kind of how you get these core values. And like Ron said, once you have these, your core values and your mission, this is how you hire, you fire, you promote. That's how we make decisions. Ron and I had a meeting with another employee, and we literally laid out our core values, laid out some different things this employee was doing, wasn't doing, and we went through each core value and asked ourselves, do they fit this? Do they fit this? How are they doing in terms of this core value and this bullet point under the core value? And based on those, they just didn't fit our culture. And we had to terminate an employee because of this recently. And if we had these core values in place before we hired, we probably wouldn't have hired this person. But we changed our core values earlier this year because the other 5 that we had didn't really resonate with us as well. And now these couple that we have are super strongly focused towards Ron and I and the mission of the company and really what we believe in as people. So I just think so. I feel so strongly about them when we're hiring. We just hired a project manager, and they fit one of these core values so well, both of these core values really so well. And it was like a no-brainer to bring them on. And it's actually their first day today. So it's just, yeah, it's something we believe in. We're going to scale this way. And it just really, all of it is for the sustainability and long-term growth. And you won't see this pay off immediately, guys, but you'll notice happier people around you, and you'll notice a more fulfilling life and a better, more thriving business, I think, Ron, at the end of the day.
It'll cost you money. Like it's not going to make you money. Especially the hardest is if you make core values and you have someone on your team, you're like, oh shoot, like this person doesn't fit. You have a couple of choices there, like have a tough conversation if you think it's something that could be adjusted, or it's a termination. Or you just deal with it, which deal with it is going to cost you in the long run. Terminating is going to cost you in the short run, but it's going to be extremely profitable for you in the long run because you know exactly what that next employee looks like in terms of all these things. It becomes like we've hired so many people in these last couple of months, and it's become so much simpler. Really, the last 2 people that we hired, the one who started today, and we have a salesperson starting here soon, like they fit it so well as far as their attitude towards things. To give you guys an example of one that we thought was a little fluff, or for me personally, I know Dan, I believe in it a lot, but one of our core values prior to changing them was continuously learn. And this was something outside of business that we wanted them to be doing, whether just bettering themselves. Like I do believe in that strongly, but it's just something that it doesn't, and maybe it drives our economics a little bit, but it's something that compared to the 2 that we have now, it's not something that I like 100% needed in an employee. I think naturally the people who are continuously learning, are continuously getting better and bettering themselves are going to gravitate towards our business and what our business stands for. But that's one, for example, that I thought, or that we came up with, that was a little, I thought, fluffy, Dan.
Yeah, and that was one actually at my old company. Continuous learning was one, and I do believe in that. And obviously, we're always reading and talking about what we're reading and bettering ourselves and in different mentor groups. I very strongly believe in continuous learning, but it didn't really drive our economics with this land flipping and land investing business. So we took it out because it was a little more fluff. It didn't stick. And sometimes you got to try, right? Like that's one I would have thought of, probably one of the top on my list before. And we put it in there and we tried it for 6 months and it just didn't stick. Like I didn't know it was going to stick or not, but it just didn't. But yeah, no, that's a really good point, Ron. I don't really have too much more to add to this. You said you wanted to add something in there?
Yeah, let's talk about that remote aspect because a lot of businesses, whether it's obviously if you're a service, like you talked about carpet cleaning, like you're going to see your employees every day or stuff like that. So like pushing it, believing in it is a lot easier. A lot of businesses, like we talked about at the beginning though, Dan, have these values that they like think of in their head and then they don't present them. These are things that, whether it's remote or in person, these are things that need to be presented. Like Daniel said, we hired an employee today. The first thing at 9 a.m. when he came in was we had our core value meeting, our core value presentation with him. So it's very transparent. And having that meeting before we talk about any roles or responsibilities or what he needs to be working on today, I think sets the tone for what we really believe in. So that's one way for remote aspect, Dan, is having those presentations. It needs to be constant. You talk about a little about the wins and lessons, Dan. I think that's something that we do weekly that is valuable.
Yeah, and the whole point of it is to constantly be building a culture and constantly be bringing up the core values and the mission. You have to drive that into everyone's brain. If you're in an office with a bunch of employees, put it on the walls. It needs to be in front of people. Maybe put it as their desktop background. Whatever it is, you have to get it in front of people or they'll forget. So that presentation we had this morning, Ron, we send that presentation, we have them review it, and then we have a meeting every Wednesday talking about wins and lessons. And it was one of my mentors who did that. It's not for every business, and he said he hasn't done it with all his businesses, but to build a culture, especially if you're remote, you have to find a way to instill these core values. And one way we do that is we have a wins and lesson meeting. And during those meetings, we talk about wins and then losses, but turn them into lessons. And then we try to relate these to our core values. So if our core values, customer focus or customer excellence or whatever it is, maybe a win was you went the extra mile for a customer and ended up, getting a $50 tip and a thank you card from them because you stayed extra and got a stain out of the carpet or something. That's a win. And then you can talk about that and relate it to the customer excellence core value that you have. And then a lesson could be the same thing. Maybe it's the timely thing and you haven't been as focused on getting things done in a timely manner. Maybe you didn't hit your deadline on a couple of things, whatever it is. Then you can relate it to that and kind of adjust, take that loss into a lesson. That's the whole point. But it's not really about seeing everyone's wins and losses throughout the week. It's really about building a culture and instilling these core values in the culture. And it's a great way to bring everyone together at the end of the week after a long week and just kind of joke around. We talk about processes and systems so much, Ron. It's really important to have some joke around time and build these cultures and, not have just a Excel sheet going through step 1 through 10 about everything. It's important to have these meetings not really related to processes and systems. And it's just, it's a great team building exercise. There's a lot of other ways I know people who are doing things like this, but it's important if you're remote to have different things like that, Ron.
Yeah, I think, and as coming from a college coaching background, dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds, like getting a team culture like that was extremely difficult and it was never complete. Like it really isn't. And it's the same thing with the business. Like actually caring about your employees. Like Daniel, we had a long week and Daniel let one of our employees go at 2 p.m. on Friday or something like that. And I think she ended up working till 4 or 5 because she just wanted to get her stuff done. Which is awesome from her aspect.
Let her go by just said take the rest of the day off. We didn't fire her on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let her take the rest of the day off. 2 p.m. on Friday. She had a long week. She learned a ton. She worked her tail off. But just consistently like building rapport with your employees is important beyond just the culture and the systems and the processes. I like this episode, and I really think it's hard to picture it sometimes. Maybe it's just you right now. It's hard to picture it, even if it's just you, but you have some bigger plans for growing a business. Even if you don't plan on growing a business of 10 employees or something like that, think about what you would want in your employees. And naturally, those types of people are going to gravitate to you, whether it's an employee, maybe it's a realtor relation, maybe it's a manufacturing relationship. If you're in some industry like that, those relationships are going to gravitate towards you if you understand what you are actually looking for in relationships.
Yeah, and trying to think of a couple book recommendations around core values. I know we had Traction. That's a big one. Traction does not. Rocket Fuel. Yeah, that's a good one. Rocket Fuel, Traction, Start with Why is a good one to kind of develop your purpose and see how important that is. Those are 3 books that really show you how important core values and culture are. It's the most overlooked thing in business. It's not overlooked by the top CEOs in the world. It's overlooked by the smaller businesses, I think, because at the end of the day, you're not going to grow a business if you don't have a great vision for it and a great mission for it. You don't know where you're going. I think that's a quote they had, Ron. How do you know where you're going when you don't have a vision or a mission? You don't have direction. So this really paves the way for your mission and vision, I think.
It's crazy looking back because I worked for So I worked for Total Quality Logistics for a little bit. If you guys don't know them, look them up. Like it's a giant logistics company, and they were extremely clear with their core values. I've also worked for businesses that were not as like strong, and it's crazy like the trajectory of the businesses and difference. I've also been for with college basketball teams that are very clear with what the direction, what the who they're recruiting and that kind of stuff versus the opposite where there's not a clear like what are we actually looking for when we're recruiting a player. It's crazy. Like it's not something that's going to be immediate, but the long term payoff, like us terminating that employee, I know for sure, Daniel, because we probably wouldn't be hiring this other salesperson here starting soon who we're excited about. But the long term trajectory of having these in place and living by them, I just think those are the real businesses that are going to thrive, especially as we're going through a recession.
Yeah, a good quote I heard was about college sports around Nick Saban, greatest football coach potentially of all time, greatest coach, one of the greatest coaches of all time in general, all sports. He says he built a culture around practice until you know you won't get it wrong, rather than practice until you get it right. And that's the thing. Like he instills that in his players. Practice until you will not get it wrong. That's like one of his strong sayings. I actually read that this morning, and that's the culture that he has. Perfection. Like practice until you cannot get it wrong. That is a very, very strong statement. He's built one of the best college football cultures ever, all time. I mean, they probably are the best without a doubt. And it just shows if you read about Nick Saban, if you read about Coach K at Duke, if you read about these big time college coaches, that culture that you build is just so, so important. And I think of like even like Mick Cronin around at UC,
Yeah.
building the culture around defense, details, touch the ball as much as possible on defense, reflections, like just these little things that they install in their culture is just goes a long, long way. And they start recruiting on those. They start starting people on those. Everything revolves around their culture, and they get people to buy in. And that's the biggest thing. You get people to buy into your culture, and then it exponentially increases after that. And vice versa. You can have kind of a bad, not as clear culture. It's not working. And things can, and Ron, you've probably seen this with teams culture, and like at University of Cincinnati basketball, when they fired their last coach, you heard stories about how fast that was declining. People were refusing to play. Like it can go against you too. But I think all it is about being very clear with it and then doing what you say, following through on that, following through on your core values, hiring and firing based on them. Because then once you're hiring people on them, they see it's consistent, and you can have a conversation, say, hey, you didn't meet this customer excellence core value because you did this, this, and this. How can we adjust? You can have conversations based on it and adjust, Ron.
Yeah, I think it relates really well to sports, and I'm glad we did bring that in here. Think about like when you're hiring employees, think about if a head coach hires an assistant coach that doesn't believe in the head coach's culture or what they're building. Like that's the same
Yeah.
thing as hiring an employee that doesn't believe in what you're doing or doesn't fit the core values. Like it is so like I know the University of Cincinnati, if he had people under him that didn't believe in what he was doing, like they might talk a little bit, and you can see it when someone believes in something, like the difference of it versus whether they're just doing what they're told. And I think I really like how this ties into sports because it's the same honestly, and I think it's even exaggerated in sports because how fast things can fall apart with losing, like losing
And the
amplifies,
age.
huh?
And the age. 18 to 22-year-olds are very
Exactly.
more
It
emotional.
amplifies. They're
The
more
age
emotional.
compared to
Like
30.
yeah, you can be a really tough coach. Like that's what people think. Like Nick Saban is extremely tough on his players, but that's his culture. And every single assistant coach, every single GA, every single manager under him is conveying the same message to the players, and that's why they're the best college program ever in terms of the last 20 years or so. Dan.
And the difference is, Ron, 35, 40, 45-year-old employees for us or your company, they're going to hold their emotions in more. The
Mm-hmm.
18 to 22-year-olds, you're going to be able to, look at them when they first enter that basketball court and know what kind of mood they're in for the day. You know what I mean? Like it's just they're going to tuck it in versus 18 to 22-year-olds are going to wear it on their sleeves more and be more abrupt with it, especially if they have egos and they're a good recruit. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's like sports, like you said, are just taking it and kind of accelerating the process. Really, you don't see it as much day to day in business, but it's there, and people are hiding it and holding it in. That's why it's so important. But let's wrap this up, Ron. Thank you guys for joining. To get started and to unlock your potential freedom, visit landinvestingonline.com to join our free Discord where Ron and I are involved. Please like and subscribe this channel, YouTube channel, Spotify, whatever you guys are listening on. If you guys got any value from this, we really appreciate it, and it drives this business forward. As always, guys, thank you for joining, and we'll see you next episode.
Thanks, guys.